Hi, my name is Everett. Tonight we are reading Abe Lincoln at Last by Mary Pope Osborne Magic Trail Series, a Merlin Mission, book number 47. Are you ready for a presidential adventure, Jack and Annie are? They are trying to get a special feather that will help save Merlin's baby penguin, Penny. When the magic trails whisk them back to Washington, D.C. in 1861, Jack can't wait to meet Abraham Lincoln himself, but the new president is too busy to see them. He is disturbed trying to save the nation of crisis. When Jack and Annie ask for some magical help, they go back even farther in time to a mysterious woods. Are these the same woods where Abraham Lincoln takes his daily horse ride? If so, can an orphan named Sam help them find Abe, or will Jack and Annie have to help Sam instead? It's a race against time as Jack and Annie try to do the right thing. Plus, they still have to aid the president and trouble nation, as well as get the objects that will save the penguin Penny. Follow Jack and Annie as they track down the facts of Abraham Lincoln, a magic treehouse fact tracker. So here we go. Let's dive right in. Prologue. One summer day in Frog Creek, Pennsylvania, a mysterious treehouse appeared in the woods. A brother and sister named Jack and Annie soon learned about the treehouse, and it was magic. It could take them to any time and place in history. Jack and Annie have since gone on many adventures in the magic treehouse and have completed many missions for both Morgan Le Fay and her friend Merlin, the magician of Camelot. So, on some of their journeys, Jack and Annie have received help from two young enchanters, Teddy and Kathleen, who learned magic from Merlin and Morgan. Now Teddy is in big trouble. While Merlin and Morgan are away, Teddy accidentally put a spell on Penny, Merlin's beloved penguin. The spell turns her into a stone. Teddy thinks that he could be banished from Camelot unless Jack and Annie can help. Teddy and Kathleen have found an ancient spell that can undo Teddy's accident magic. To make that ancient spell work, Jack and Annie must find 4 special things, each from a different time and place. They have already found 2 of these things, an emerald in the shape of a rose and white and yellow flower. Now Jack and Annie are waiting to find out what then they must search for next. Chapter 1, the third thing. Annie peeked into Jack's room. "Ready?" she whispered. "Yep," said Jack. Even though it was 2 hours before school started, Jack and Annie were already dressed. Jack put his notebook and pencil into his backpack. Then he picked up his backpack and his sneakers and followed Annie into the hall. In their socks and feet, Jack and Annie tiptoed past their parents' bedroom. They slipped down the stairs. When they reached the front hall, Jack and Annie put their jackets and shoes and stepped outside. The early morning sky was gray. Everything was quiet except for the sound of gentle spring rain. "Should we get our raincoats?" asked Jack. "It's clearing up," said Annie. She pointed to the blue sky in the distance. "Oh, good," said Jack. "Let's hurry." Jack and Annie stepped off their porch. Then they ran up the sidewalk and crossed the street. By the time they started into the Frog Creek woods, the rain had stopped. Misty rays of sunlight slanted down through the trees. Jack and Annie kept going until they came to the tallest oak. The leaves on top of the tree sparkled in the raindrops, and the magic treehouse was lit by the morning sun. "It's waiting for us," said Jack. "I knew it would be," said Annie. She grabbed the rope ladder and started up. Jack climbed after her. Inside the treehouse, they looked for the 2 special things they'd found on their last missions. "Great, they're still here," said Jack, pointing to a green jewel and a white and yellow flower in the corner. "And it looks like Teddy and Kathleen sent some more stuff," said Annie. Lying on the shadowy was a book. Next to it was a small folded note and a tiny blue bottle. Jack picked up the book. Its cover showed an old black and white photograph of a building. It looked like the White House in Washington, D.C. Jack gasped. "Oh man, Abraham Lincoln." The Life of Abraham Lincoln. Wow, said Danny. Looking at the book's cover, he was a great president. No kidding, said Jack. Do you think we're actually going to meet him? He opened the book to the first page and read aloud. Abraham Lincoln served as president of the United States March 1861 until the assassination on April 1865. He led the country through the terrible crisis of the American Civil War. He preserved the unions of states and outlawed slavery. I can't believe it, said Jack, closing the book. Abraham Lincoln, do you think he's supposed to help us find the third thing to break the spell that turned Penny into stone? Maybe, said Annie. Let's see what else Teddy and Kathleen left for us. She picked up the tiny bottle and the note. Then she unfolded the note and read aloud. The third thing to break the spell is a single feather from a hero's hand. Use it wisely to give him hope, the hope he needs to heal his land. That sounds like a riddle, said Jack. I'll bet Abraham Lincoln is the hero, said Annie. And she looked at the note again. We have to get a feather from him that will use the feather to give him hope. Confusing, said Jack. A lot of our missions seem confusing at first, don't you think, said Annie? But in the end, they all make sense. Yeah, I guess, said Jack, but that doesn't help us right now. There must be a magic potion in the bottle. What does the label say? Annie held up the small blue bottle and read the tiny writing on its label. Take a sip, make a wish for one thing to help you on your mission. Remember, trust the magic. That sounds kind of general, said Jack. Wish for anything to help us with our mission? That could be anything. And remember, said Annie, trust the magic. Okay, we'll try to do that, said Jack. He took the bottle and the note from Annie and put them on into his backpack. We've got everything we need, said Annie. A mission, a research book, and a little bit of magic. Ready to go? Yep, said Jack. He pointed to the picture of the White House on the cover of the book and said, I wish we could go there, he said. The wind started to blow, the trail started to spin, he spun faster and faster. Then everything was still. Absolutely still. Chapter 2, Pirate Captain. Jack shivered. The air was chilly, but the sun was bright. Bare branches outside the treehouse swayed in the wind. Annie was wearing a long dress with an apron. Jack wore a cotton shirt over a red undershirt and a pair of trousers with suspenders. Jack's backpack had turned into a leather bag. Jack looked into his bag. Inside were his notebook and pencil, the message from Teddy and Kathleen, and the bottle of the magic potion. Good, he said. It's all here. We've worn clothes like these before, said Annie. Yeah, when we went to the Twister on the prairie, said Jack. And when we went to the Civil War, when we helped Clara Barton in the Civil War, said Annie. Right, said Jack. So did we land at the White House? They looked out the window. The tree house had landed in a grove of bare, sunlit trees. Beyond the trees, horse-drawn carriages rumbled over a circular carriageway toward a stately white mansion with tall columns. Oh man, whispered Jack. The White House was breathtaking in the morning air. Bathed in sunlight, a crowd was gathered outside the front entrance. Men in long black coats and tall hats, and women in hoop skirts and bonnets with big bows. Looks like a lot of people are visiting Abraham Lincoln today, said Annie. Jack thumbed through the book of the research and until he found a black and white photo and graph of the White House. He read aloud. When Abraham Lincoln became president in 1861, the White House was considered to belong to all the citizens of the country as well as the president and his family. Anyone could walk right in. President Lincoln sometimes found it hard to work in his White House office because of the number of people swarming through the building. So anyone can just walk right into the White House and look for the president, said Annie. That's crazy, said Jack. Yeah, but it's good for us, said Annie. I guess, said Jack, but I don't want to be one of those people who make it hard for the president to work. Don't forget, said Annie, we're supposed to give him hope with a feather that he's supposed to give us, said Jack. He shook his head, then took out The note from Teddy and Kathleen. The third thing to break the spell is a single feather from a hero's hand. Use it wisely to give him hope, the hope he needs to heal his land. How can we get a feather from him, said Jack, and how is the feather going to give him hope? It's better to do one thing at a time, said Annie. First, we have to find the president. Hey, Willie, look! Someone shouted from below. It's a treehouse, see? Oh no, whispered Jack. Jack and Annie peeked out the window. A boy about 7 or 8 years old was looking up at the treehouse. The boy wore ragged gray trousers with suspenders and white shirt. He had dark, piercing eyes. Hello, the boy shouted when he saw Jack and Annie. Who are you? Why are you in our treehouse? Your treehouse, said Jack. It's our treehouse. Yes, it is, said the boy. The boy said confidently. Dad, hush, said an older boy. An older boy ran to join the younger one. He had a friendly, open face and looked to be around Jack's age. Don't mind my brother, Tad, he shouted. But it's ours, Willie, said Tad. The treehouse is in... The White House is our house, and the treehouse is in our yard. Oh man, thought Jack. That was what the book says too. The White House was considered to belong to all the citizens of the country, as well as the president. I'm sorry, but this treehouse is not like the White House, Jack called. It doesn't belong to the citizens of the country. It's ours. No, it's not, yelled Tad. I'm coming up. No, you're not, said Jack. He reached for the ladder to pull it up, but Tad had already started climbing. Hide our stuff, Jack, said Danny. Jack quickly hid the Lincoln book into his leather bag. Annie stuck their note and the tiny Bible into her apron pocket. Tad, come back, called Willie. Leave them alone. Tad scrambled into the treehouse. He grinned at Jack and Annie. His dark eyes gleamed. I'm a pirate captain, and I'm taking over your ship. Tad shook his small fist at Jack's face. Fight me! Cut it out, said Jack, waving him away. Tad, Willie shouted from below. The boy just laughed like a maniac and danced around the treehouse, trying to box with Jack. This is my ship now, matey. Quit it, said Jack. Tad, his brother yelled. Your brother's calling you, Annie said firmly to Tad. Go now. Who are you to boss me around, missy, said Tad, jutting out his chin. Annie laughed. I'm not a missy, shrimp, she said. I'm Annie, and this is my brother Jack. Tad lowered his fist. Oh, hello, Annie. I'm Tad. He put out his hand, and Annie shook it. Pleased to meet you, said Tad, completely dropping his role as pirate captain. What are you and Jack doing today? Actually, we're hoping to meet with the president, said Annie. Really, said Tad. Me and Willie know a secret. He gave them a sly grin. If you come with us, we'll take you right straight to the president. I give you my word. Thanks, but we can handle it ourselves. The last thing he wanted was for this kid to get in their way. But I want to help you. Come with me, said Tad. He started down the ladder. Shh. Should we go with him? Annie whispered. No, he's just making stuff up, said Jack. Are you coming down, called Tad, or should I come back up so we can play? Darn, said Jack under his breath. Let's go, just to get him away from the treehouse. Jack grabbed his bag. Suddenly, Tad poked his head back into the treehouse. Are you coming or not? He said. Yes, go, said Annie. What's in your bag? Asked Tad. Nothing, said Jack. Go back down. He didn't want Tad to see the Lincoln book. Let me see, said Tad, climbing back into the treehouse. What's inside? Nothing. He told you nothing, said Annie. Then why does he bring it with him? Tad asked her. Fine, I'll leave it, said Jack crossly. He dropped his leather bag to the floor. Happy? Let's go. Yes, let's go, said Tad as he disappeared down the ladder. Jack reached into his bag and grabbed his small notebook and pencil and stuck them into his bag, the back pocket of his pants. I'll come back later and get the book, Jack whispered. After we get rid of this kid, and he smiled. If we can, she said. Then she and Jack started down the rope ladder. Chapter 3. Hide! Willie was waiting at the bottom of the ladder. Hello, he said. Willie, this is Jack and Annie, said Tad. I told them that we know a secret. He gave Willie a meaningful look. I told them that we'd take them to meet the president. I gave them my word. Oh, you did you? Said Willie. Hello, Jack and Annie. He shook hands with them. I apologize for Tad, he added. My brother is very high-spirited. And Willie's as sweet as pie, said Tad, making a face. Come on, y'all, to the White House. He saluted, then took huge marching steps across the lawn. So does Tad really know the president? Annie asked as she and Jack walked with Willie. He does, said Willie with a smile, and so do I. Oh, cool, said Jack. He liked Willie's kind nature manner. He wouldn't mind if Willie introduced them to the president. Do you think you could introduce us? If Tad doesn't introduce you first, said Willie, then I'd be happy to. That would be great, said Jack. As Tad marched ahead of them, Jack, Annie, and Willie walked through the sun-dappled grove of trees. The air was chilly, but it smelled like spring. It looked like spring, too. Tiny buds sprouted from bare branches, birds flitted from tree to tree, and robins haunted worms in the green grass. Are your parents visiting the White House? Annie asked Willie. You could say that, said Willie. Look at me, called Tad, who was running backwards up the carriageway. Watch out, Tad, shouted Willie. Tad jumped out of the path of a horse-drawn carriage just in time. The carriage stopped in front of the president's house. The crowd was huge now, as people tried to squeeze through the front doors. Some waved pieces of paper at the guard. Everyone wants to meet the president, said Tad. They all want something from him. Don't talk that way, said Tad, said Willie. He turned to Jack and Annie. They're mostly looking for jobs in the government. They have to care for their families. Tad led the way past the carriages and between the columns of the huge crowd. Allow us to enter, he shouted to the guard. Jack and Annie are here, important friends of the president. To Jack's amazement, the guard did as Tad commanded. He moved people aside and let Tad, Willie, Annie, and Jack right into the White House. Jack trailed behind as they all passed through the entranceway. From there, they went around the bronze screen and into a wide hall filled with grown-ups. Make way, shouted Tad as he squeezed through the crowd. A few women squealed, their hoop skirts rocking and swirled. Stop, Tad, said Willie, grabbing his brother. Calm yourself. No kidding, thought Jack. He liked Willie a lot, but Tad was too wild and unpredictable. Tad laughed and broke loose from his big brother. He ran into a room off the hallway. Willie and Annie hurried after him. A moment later, Jack heard someone banging on a piano. Jack followed cautiously. He went through the door onto a parlor filled with women and girls sipping tea from china cups. The room had furniture covered with red satin. There was a large portrait of George Washington on the wall by the tall windows. No one was paying attention to Tad as he pounded away on the piano keys. Even Willie was ignoring him. He was busy introducing Annie to a plump, dark-haired woman sitting on a sofa. Why don't the grown-ups stop this bratty kid? Jack wondered. Where's his parents? The White House guard. The security service. Tad turned his head and caught sight of Jack frowning at him. He jumped up from the piano bench, rushed over and grabbed Jack's hand. Sorry, mate, I almost forgot. I gave you my word, he said. Come along. Jack tried to free himself from Tad as the boy pulled him across the parlor. Stop, let me go. I have to wait for my sister, said Jack. He looked back at Annie, and Willie was still talking to the woman on the sofa. They'll catch up to us, said Tad. Come along, I have a secret that you won't believe. Please, leave me alone, said Jack. No, come with me, or I'll start screaming, said Tad, and I can scream very, very loud. He had a wild look in his eyes. Oh no, thought Jack, this kid was totally insane. Don't scream, just hold on a second, he called out. Annie, Willie, but neither of them turned to look. Come on. It's now or never, said Tad. He pulled Jack down the carpet all the way toward the wide staircase. Let go. go of me. I'm serious, said Jack. Tad let go of him. Please, please come up the stairs, he begged. If you don't, He opened his mouth wide. Fine, I'll come, Jack said through his teeth. He let Tad pull him through the grown-ups and group of grown-ups climbing the stairs. When we get to the top, I'll run back down, Jack thought. Then he can scream as loud as he wants. As soon as he reached the top of the hallway on the second floor, Jack turned around to run, but the stairway was packed with too many people to escape. Tad grabbed Jack by the arm and pulled him to the door off the hallway. The president is right in there, I promise, he whispered. Do you want to meet him or not? Not, said Jack. At least not with you, he thought. But you said you did, said Tad. He threw open the door and pulled Jack inside. Then he closed the door behind him. Jack looked around. The room was empty of people. It had a huge wooden bed with purple drapes. Flying birds were carved on the black wood. This must be the president's bedroom, Jack thought with awe and horror. He whirled around to Tad, but Tad gripped the door handle. We can't stay here, Tad, Jack whispered furiously. We'll get in terrible trouble. But President Lincoln's in his dressing room, said Tad. He grinned, pointing at a closed door off the bedroom. I told you I'd take him right to him. Are you crazy, Jack whispered. Move. I'm leaving before we get caught. Suddenly, Tad groaned and fell to the floor. Tad, said Jack. He bent down to check on him. Tad, are you... Tad grabbed Jack's arm and pulled him to the floor just as the dressing room door opened. Hide, Tad whispered. He scrambled under the wooden bed. Jack frantically crawled after him. Jack held his breath as they lay on the stomachs under the bed. His heart was beating so hard he thought he was going to have a heart attack. Tad covered his mouth and shook with silent laughter. Two large feet in black socks stomped beside the bed. Jack felt the bed sink down. A pair of hands put a pair of large leather shoes down on the floor. The feet slipped into the shoes. Then the weight lifted off the bed and the shoes stepped forward. Tad crawled silently out from under the bed. Then he tackled the person wearing the shoes. The man yelled and fell to the floor. Tad sat on top of him, beating him with his small fist. From his hiding place, Jack could see a dark-haired man lying on the side and groaning and moaning. Tad was attacking the President of the United States. Chapter 4. Willie! Jack was horrified. Would the Secret Service arrest him along with Tad? Jack had to stop him. Suddenly the president burst out laughing. He wrapped his hands around Tad's fists. You little tadpole, he said. You didn't scare me one bit. Then he started tickling Tad. Don't, Pa, don't. Tad screamed and giggled and kicked. Pa, thought Jack. Abraham Lincoln is Tad's pa. The president laughed and he stopped tickling Tad and kissed him on the head. What are you doing here, my boy, he said. Pa, me and Willie found a treehouse, said Tad. Did you know there was a treehouse here? 2 kids were in it, Jack and Annie. Jack said it belonged to them, but I told him it was mine because it's in our yard. Isn't it mine, Pa? Jack wanted to shout, no, it's ours, but he was afraid to be caught under the bed. Wait, what did you say their names were? The president asked, sounding serious. Jack and Annie. Yes, said Tad. They came out of nowhere. Don't you think the treehouse is mine, Pa? Mine and Willie's? They came out of nowhere, said the president, and their names are Jack and Annie. Are you sure? Why doesn't Tad tell him I'm right here under the bed, Jack wondered. Should I just crawl out? Yes, Pa, Jack and Annie, said Tad, but I want to know about the treehouse, too. The door opened. Mr. President, you must come at once, a man said briskly. You are late for your first meeting. Sorry, Mr. Nicolay, President Lincoln said. I'll be right there. He stood up. The crowd is going restless, sir, said Mr. Nicolay. Before you know it, they'll storm your bedroom. Oh, they wouldn't dare, said the president, chuckling. Not with my bodyguard here. He ruffled Tad's hair. Come on, Tadpole. Escorted me to my new office down the hall. But when will you come and see the treehouse, Pa? Said Tad as they started out of the room. Perhaps when I take my horseback ride later, said the president. I'd like to meet these, Jack Nanny. The door closed and the room was quiet. Dad forgot me, Jack thought. He couldn't believe it. Then he realized he better get out of the president's bedroom. He started to crawl out from under the bed, but the door opened again, so he quickly crawled back. Desk first, Jack heard a little girl say. Hey, then shake the pillows and change the linen, said another. Jack could see the black stocks and shoes of the maids as they bustled around the room. Now, he thought, before they make the bed. He scrambled out and ran to the door. One of the girls screamed. Jack didn't look back. He threw open the door and headed for the stairs. As he bounded down the steps, one of the maids shrieked, There was a boy under the bed! Jack reached the bottom of the stairs and squeezed through the crowd until he found a nook off the hallway. He crunched against the wall, then peeked around the corner to see if anyone was coming after him. Someone grabbed Jack's arm. Ah, Jack yelled. It's me, said Annie. Where have you been? I've been looking all over for you. I was upstairs in President Lincoln's bedroom, said Jack. Tad made me go under there. Did you know that President Lincoln is Tad's and Willie's dad? That's what I was coming to tell you. Willie introduced me to their mom, said Annie. She was really nice. Those were all her relatives in the parlor. Well, Tad tricked me into hiding under the bed, and I almost got caught, said Jack. And Tad didn't even remember. I was there. He kept talking about the treehouse, saying it was his. Willie says Tad gets overly excited, saying he can't help it. Plus, it's the first week in the White House. Well, it was awful. I was trapped under the president's bed. Annie giggled. You know, that actually sounds pretty funny, she said. Not really, said Jack. Don't worry, said Annie. Willie would have saved you. He told me to find you and then come upstairs to his dad's office, and he'll introduce us. It's on the second floor at the end of the hall. Okay, said Jack, sighing. I heard the president say he'd like to meet us. Really, said Annie? Yep. When Tad told him about the treehouse and you and me, the president kept saying, Jack and Annie, are you sure their names are Jack and Annie? That's weird, said Annie. But I'm glad he wants to meet us. Come on. Jack and Annie headed down the hallway and up the stairs. On the second floor, Jack kept his head down just in case the maids were looking for him. Jack followed Annie down the hall toward a group of people standing outside a door. A skinny man with a tall, pointed beard was speaking to them. Ladies and gentlemen, please, I am sorry, but only the names on my list can meet with the president today. Jack recognized the man's voice. That's Mr. Nicklay, he told Annie. Who are you to tell us we can't see the president? A woman in a pink bonnet asked Mr. Nicklay. I am Mr. President's secret team, ma'am, Mr. Nicklay said sourly. And if you do not have an impatient, you must leave. Excuse me, Mr. Nicklay, but I believe that I am on your list, said a dignifying man. He showed the secretary a piece of paper. Then the secretary checked the paper against his list. Of course, Mr. Bennett, Mr. Nicklay said. He opened the door and nodded for Mr. Bennett to enter, then followed him inside. While the door was open, Jack Nanny peeked into the room. Mr. Abraham Lincoln was sitting on a table. Tad was perched on his lap, fiddling with his dad's tie. Willie was studying a map on the wall, while the president was listening to one of the men at the table. Willie, Annie whispered loudly. Willie didn't hear, but Mr. Nicklay did. He rushed back out of the president's office. Willie, Annie shouted. Willie turned around just as Mr. Nicklay closed the door. Chapter 5. Leave now. Excuse me, my young lady, said Mr. Nicklay. This is not time for play. I'm not playing, sir, said Annie as she and Jack stood at the front of the crowd. We're friends of Tad and Willie's, and Willie just told us to come here to the president's office. He wants to introduce us to his dad. Mr. Nicklay scowled. I'm afraid Mr. Willie misspoke. The president does not have any time to meet you now. he said. He is in a private meeting with delegates from California, India, and Maine. Maybe later then, said Annie. Not maybe later, said Mr. Nicolay. After this meeting, he's scheduled to have a meeting with the general and then a meeting with the Department of the Navy. Excuse me, a man in the crowd called out. But I heard the president say he'd like to meet us, and Jack broke in. I can't imagine why he said that, said Mr. Nicolay, shaking his head. Following all the meetings I've listed, President Lincoln will have meetings with foreign diplomats, with a group of senators, and then with reporters from the New York Times. Mr. Nicolay, listen, shouted someone. So, sir, Annie interrupted, you're saying he'll not have no free time at all today? Oh, he might have a free moment, said Mr. Nicolay, but that miracle occur. The president will not go for a horseback ride in the country and have a private meeting with himself. Got it, said Annie. She took a deep breath. Well, maybe can you just answer one question for us? Do you know if the president collects flowers? Mr. Nicolay threw up his hands. This is no time for silly questions, he said. Our country is divided, young lady. We are the brink of war. What do you mean, sir? One of the men in the crowd shouted. What's the news from Fort Sumter? Yes, what do you know that we don't know, a lady called. Everyone started shouting at once. Listen, that's it. Leave it now, everyone, Mr. Nicolay said. The president is busy. He works night and day for you and for the unit of this nation. As the crowd shouted back at the security, Jack tugged on Annie's sleeve. Let's get out of here, he said. Wait, should we wait for Willie, said Annie. I don't think Willie can help us, said Jack. Come on, let's get back to the trails and look at a research book. Maybe we can think of something else. Okay, said Annie, sighing. Jack and Annie hurried along the hallway, then down the stairs to the first floor. They wove their way across then escaped out of the main door. Phew, that place is nuts, said Jack as they walked between the tall white columns of the White House. Are you sure we shouldn't wait for Willie, said Annie? I'm sure, said Jack. He hurried down the carriageway. Even if Willie took us back to the office to meet with his dad, he wouldn't be alone with Mr. President. Lots of other people would be there, too. We couldn't ask him for a feather, and we sure couldn't give him any hope. Everyone would laugh. You're right, said Annie. Jack shook his head. How can the president then even think in that place? With Tad jumping on him, his relatives visiting, his secret yelling, and 1,000 people scheduled to meet with him, said Annie. And 1,000 who are trying to meet with him, said Jack. They had arrived back at the trails. No wonder the president needs to take a ride in the country. By himself, said Jack. He grabbed the sides of the ladder. Let's go up and look in the book. Wait, said Annie. I have a good idea. What? Asked Jack. Right now we really need to have a private meeting with Abraham Lincoln alone, said Annie. Right, yes, so, said Jack. So if that's one thing we need, our book can't really help us, said Annie. But I know something that can. What? Said Jack. Annie reached into her apron pocket and pulled out the bottle and read the label aloud. Take a sip, make a wish for one thing to help you on your mission. Remember, trust the magic. Annie looked up at Jack. So why don't we make a wish to have a private meeting with Abraham Lincoln? Isn't it too soon to use our only magic, said Jack. Maybe, but maybe it's the perfect time, said Annie. So we wish to have a meeting with President Lincoln all by ourselves, said Jack. Yep, said Annie. Jack couldn't think of another plan. Well, okay, he said. Let's do it. Just remember, we have to trust the magic, said Annie. Jack nodded. Annie took the top of the bottle off. She raised the bottle to her lips and swallowed a quick sip of the potion. She handed the bottle to Jack, and he did the same. You can make our wish, said Annie. Jack squeezed his eyes shut. We wish to have a meeting with Abraham Lincoln alone, he said. There was a deafening whoosh and a roar. The earth shook like a speeding train passing by. Then the ground opened, and Jack felt as if he were falling through space, through a tunnel, down through darkness, into a world of daylight. Chapter 6, Trust the Magic. Clouds hid the sun. Jack Nanny sat on a clump of dead weeds beside a dirt road on the countryside. A chilly wind blew the creaky limbs of a bare tree. "You okay?" asked Danny. "I think so," said Jack. "Where are we?" "Looks like we're somewhere in the country," said Danny. "No kidding, but where? Why?" said Jack. Wait, said Danny. "Mr. Nickley said if the president had a free moment, he'd take a ride in the country. I'll bet we've come to the spot where we'll catch him alone." "Oh, wow, cool," said Jack. "Look," said Danny, "someone's coming this way on a horse." A slim figure on a horse was coming down the dirt road. Jack and Nanny jumped to their feet. When the rider on the bony horse got closer, Jack sighed. "It's not the president," he said. "It's just some kid on an old horse." "Maybe the kid's supposed to help us somehow," said Danny. "Remember, trust the magic." Jack nodded, but he couldn't imagine a boy would be much help. He looked to be about 10 or 11 years old. His matted black hair stuck out from under coonskin cap, and mecca skins were stained and torn. A frayed burlap sack hung from his shoulders. Annie stepped into the road and waved. "Hello," she called. The boy pulled his old horse to a stop. He took off his cap and bowed his head. Then he put his cap back on and looked at them with tired gray eyes. "How do?" he said without smiling. We do good," said Danny. "We're wondering if you can help us. We're looking for Abraham Lincoln. Does he ride his horse around here? Have you ever seen him?" The boy's eyes brightened. You're looking for Abraham Lincoln?" he asked. "Yes, we are," said Jack. "Why?" said the boy. Well, we just want to say hi to him," asked Jack. "Do you know if he rides in this area?" The boy nodded. "He does. In fact, he is in this area as we speak." "Really?" said Danny. She smiled at Jack as if to say the magic's working. Jack couldn't help smiling back. "So can you help us find him where he is?" he asked the boy. "Yes," said the boy, nodding. "But I think it's better if I take you to him myself. I just have to grind some corn at the mill first." "How long will that take?" he wondered. "How long will the president be riding in the countryside?" "Maybe you could just tell us where we could find him," Jack asked. We don't have much time." "Wait," said Anne. She whispered to Jack. "We have to trust the magic." Jack sighed. He looked at the boy. "Okay, we'll go to the mill with you," he said, "but it would be good if we could hurry so we don't miss finding Abraham Lincoln." "You won't miss him. I give you my word," said the boy. "Come on, the grinder's around the bend." "Giddy up, girl." He shook the reins and the old horse started plodding down the road again. Jack Nanny walked after the slow-moving horse. "Our names are Jack Nanny," said Annie. "What's yours?" "You can call me Sam," said the boy over his shoulder. "Okay, Sam, thanks for helping us." A gust of wind stirred the branches of the trees. The old horse neighed and stopped. "Keep going, girl," said Sam, but the horse wouldn't budge. "She doesn't hear well. She gets spooked by the wind," Sam explained to Jack Nanny. The lonely sound of the wind spooked Jack too. Something felt wrong. The weather here was different from the weather at the White House. "Giddy up, girl," said Sam. The horse started plodding down the road again. When they rounded the bend, Jack saw a strange-looking machine in a clearing. It had a barrel-like container with a wooden beam attached to it. Metal rods hung from the ends of the beam. "What's that?" Jack asked. "The grinders," said Sam. "You ain't ever seen one before?" "Sure we have," said Danny. No one was tending the grinder or waiting to use it. Sam dropped his sack to the ground and dismounted. He was tall and skinny. His buckskin pants were torn too short for him. "What's in your bag?" asked Danny. 20 pounds of corn," said Sam. "Shelled it all by hand." "Wow," said Danny. Sam poured the corn kernels into a funnel the barrel. Then he hitched the old horse to a leather strap attached to the metal rod. Jack and Annie stood beside and watched Sam walk his horse around in the circle. After a while, Jack grew impatient. The corn grinding was taking forever, but he could see but before he could say anything, a gust of wind came up and the horse reared. "Keep moving, girl," said Sam. The horse neighed and tossed back her head. "Go on, girl, giddy up," said Sam. He slapped the horse on the back. "Giddy up," I said. The horse didn't budge. "These nice folks are waiting on us," said Sam. He pushed the horse from behind. The wind picked up, tossing dead leaves into the air. The horse neighed again and kicked out her hind foot. The hoof hit Sam in the head. His coonskin cap flew off as he fell backward and sprawled across the ground. "Sam!" cried Danny. Jack Nanny knelt in the dirt beside the boy. A trickle of blood ran down the side of his head, and his eyes were closed. "Sam," said Danny, "can you hear me?" She wiped the blood from with her apron. Sam didn't answer or open his eyes. "Hey, Sam," Jack said loudly, "wake up!" But Sam didn't move. He didn't even seem to be breathing. Jack and Annie looked at each other. "Is he dead?" whispered Annie. Chapter 7, Sam's Farm. "I don't know," said Jack. "This was one of the worst things that ever happened." He pressed his finger against Sam's wrist to feel for the pulse, like he'd seen on TV and movies. Sam's eyes opened. "Giddy up," he said weakly. Jack laughed with relief. We were afraid you were dead," he said. "Ain't dead yet," said Sam, whispered, blinking. "But I am seeing stars and my ears are ringing." "Does your head hurt?" asked Annie. "Yes, bad," said Sam quietly. His eyes squinted with pain. "It might have a concussion," said Jack. Is there a doctor nearby?" 35, said Sam. "Minutes?" asked Jack. "Miles," whispered Sam. "Whoa, that's really far," said Annie. "I have to go home to our farm," said Sam, and he struggled to sit up. "Careful," said Jack. He couldn't remember what to do if someone had a concussion. With Jack and Annie's help, Sam managed to get on his feet. "Thanks," said the boy. He staggered toward the horse, then swayed and collapsed onto the ground. "Sam," said Annie. Jack and Annie gently helped him back onto a standing position. "Dizzy, just dizzy," whispered Sam. "We'll help you get home," said Annie. You can't do it by yourself, right, Jack?" "Right," said Jack. He knew it was the right thing to do. "But as soon as we get him home to his parents, we'll have to find Abraham Lincoln," he thought. "Sam can sit in the front of me and I'll hold on to him," Annie said to Jack. "You can take the reins and walk alongside us." "Okay." Jack kept holding Sam while Annie unhitched the straps, freeing the horse. The wind had died down. The horse was calm, and as Annie coaxed her to a tree stump that she climbed onto the stump and then onto the horse's back. "Your turn, Sam," said Jack. Jack helped Sam's elbow as the gangly boy climbed onto the stump. Then Sam hauled himself onto the horse in front of Annie. He started to slip forward, but before he could slide off, Annie grabbed him and held him up. "Got him?" said Jack. "My cornmeal," Sam whispered. "I'll get it," said Jack. He found the panel in the bottom of the grinder and opened it. Then he grabbed the empty sack and scooped up the ground corn inside. Jack slung the sack over his shoulder. Then he picked up the reins and turned to the horse around. Annie held Sam as Jack led the horse along the lonely road back to the way they had come. "This isn't the way it's supposed to happen," Jack thought. He knew they were supposed to trust magic, but now they were helping the person who was supposed to help them. Jack asked, "Where is your farm?" Jack asked after a while. The boy didn't answer. "Sam," said Annie, giving him a little shake. "Where's your farm? Where is it?" Sam opened his eyes. "Here," he said. Jack didn't see any sign of a farm. The only things up ahead were a small windowless log cabin with a shed. A curl of smoke rose into the white sky. "Here, where?" asked Jack. Sam pointed to the cabin and shed. "That's it," said Jack. "Sam's family must be really poor." The cabin and shed were in a scrubby clearing. The clearing was dotted with piles of stones and stumps where trees had been chopped down. Not much of a farm, thought Jack, but at least they hadn't wasted a lot of time getting Sam home. Jack led the horse toward Sam's farm. The cabin not only had no window, it didn't even have a door. A black bearskin hung over the entrance. The horse stopped near the lean-to shed. The sound of a cow mooing came from inside. "I'll help you, Sam," Jack said, dropping the sack of cornmeal on the ground. "Careful, careful!" Sam lowered himself down from the horse. When his feet touched the ground, Jack grabbed him. "Lean on me," he said. He put Sam's arm around his shoulders. "Got him," said Annie. "Yep," said Jack. As Jack and Sam stumbled toward the cabin, Annie slid off the horse and tied her to a fence post beside the shed. Then she grabbed the sack of cornmeal. Then she ran to the cabin and pushed aside the bearskin so Jack could help Sam inside. No one was home. The only light in the one-room cabin from daylight streamed through big cracks between the logs. The walls and a low fire burned in the fireplace, but the air was cold and damp. The floor was made in dirt, and the crude furniture was made of planks and of wood and the tree stumps. Thank you, Jack," Sam said, breathing heavily. "You can just leave me right here." He took his arm from Jack's shoulder and crumpled onto the dirt floor. He curled up and lay shivering on his side. "This is not good," thought Jack. "You can't lie on the dirt, Sam," said Annie. "Don't you have a bed?" Sam pointed to a loft. "We'll help you," said Jack. Jack and Annie pulled Sam up from the floor. He put his arm around their shoulders and they brought him to the row of wooden pegs that led to the loft. Sam managed to pull himself up the low row of pegs. When he reached the top, he disappeared. "Now what, Annie?" Jack whispered to Annie. Sam moaned from the loft. "Poor kid," Annie murmured to Jack. "There's no one here to take care of him." Jack didn't know what to do. He wanted to help Sam, but they still had to find Abraham Lincoln in the countryside before he returned to the White House, and he wasn't sure how long the magic would work. Another moan came from the loft. "We have to help Sam," Annie said decisively. She climbed up the wooden pegs. Jack followed. As he crawled into the loft, he had to be careful not to bump his head on the ceiling. Wooden light and cold air came through the cracks between the logs. Sam was lying on the bed, corn husks and dried leaves. His fingers were pressed against his head. "Does your head still hurt?" asked Annie. "Bad," said Sam. He kept pressing his forehead as if trying to push away the pain. "Where are your parents?" Sam asked Jack. "Pa's gone," Sam said hoarsely. His eyes were squeezed shut. He went to Kentucky last month." "Where's your mother?" asked Annie. Sam just shook his head. "Can you tell us where your mother is?" asked Annie. "Dead. She died last year," said Sam. He covered his eyes with his arms. "Oh no," said Annie. "Is there anyone who can take care of you?" Jack asked. He couldn't imagine being so lonely. "My sister, Sarah," said Sam in a muffled voice. "Where's Sarah now?" asked Jack. "School," said Sam. "When does she come home?" asked Jack. "After dark," said Sam. "After dark, Danny? Short days in December," said Sam. "December," thought Jack. When they landed at the White House, it'd been March. Maybe Sam's head injury had confused him. "We're not leaving you, Sam," said Annie. "Not until Sarah comes home." "Don't have to stay," said Sam, wincing with pain. We know we don't have to," said Jack, "but we want to." And he meant it. Chapter 8, Into the Rough. Jack and Annie huddled on the loft near Sam. As the wind whistled between the logs, Jack could feel the boy's sadness. "Thank you," said Sam, "but I have to get up now. I have to do chores. Help Sarah." "No, not now," said Annie. "Maybe Sarah can take care of your chores when she gets home." She'll be too tired, said Sam. She has to walk a long way home. With Pa gone, she can't sleep. Hears wolves and wildcats all night. Really? Are there wolves and wildcats around here? Said Jack. Plenty, said Sam. I have to do my chores. He tried to sit up. Not until you feel better, Annie said firmly. You lie here and rest. We'll do your chores. Just tell us what to do. We'll be happy to do 'em, won't we, Jack? Sure, said Jack. What are your chores, Sam? Sam lay back took a deep breath. Split wood. He closed his eyes. Milk cow, get water from spring. Jack slipped his notebook and pencil out of his back pocket and wrote. Split wood. Milk cow, get water from spring. Where's the spring? Said Jack. Just a mile away, through the rough, said Sam. The rough, said Jack. No problem, said Annie. Anything else to do? Make cornbread, then do homework and speller book, said Sam. Jack added on his list. Make cornbread, homework, and speller book. That's it, said Jack. Yes, said Sam. Good, we can do that, said Annie. We can, thought Jack. Milk cow, make cornbread, and what's the rough? Sam, where's the rough? Asked Jack. But Sam had fallen asleep. Sam, said Jack. Shh, let him sleep, whispered Annie. Jack nodded. He followed Annie down the loft and across the dirt floor. She pushed aside the bearskin and then stepped out of the cabin. Why did you promise to do Sam's chores? Said Jack. We don't know how to do all this stuff. It was the only way to keep him from trying to do work, said Annie. He really needs to rest. Don't worry, we can figure it out. What's first? Jack looked at his list. Split wood, he said. How hard can that be, said Annie. There's the wood pile. There's the axe. She strode to the stack of wood in the front yard. An axe was sunk into the fat log. Annie rubbed her hands together, then wrapped them around the long axe. She pulled and pulled, but the axe didn't budge. Let me try, said Jack. Annie stepped aside. Jack gripped the handle and pulled as hard as he could, but the axe stayed in the log. Forget it. It's like trying to pull a sword from the stone. Annie laughed. I guess we're not meant to be kings, she said. So what's next? Milk cow, Jack read from the list. All righty, Annie said cheerfully. She led the way to the shed next to the cabin. Inside the shed, a cow was eating hay and swishing its tail. A three-legged stool and a tin pail stood in the corner. You try first, said Annie. Me, said Jack. I try the axe first, said Annie. Jack put the pail under the cow and moved the stool close to her. Then he sat down. The cow gave him a look. Then she whipped him in the face with her tail. Ow, said Jack. He leaned forward and stared at the cow's udder. Jack looked up at Annie. I have no idea what to do, he said. Annie laughed. Me neither, she said. We'll come back to that, too. What's next? Jack jumped up from the stool and looked at his list. Get water from spring, he said. I saw 2 jugs by the door, said Annie. I'll get them. She ran into the cabin and came back a moment later with 2 brown jugs. Heavy, Annie warned. She gave one to Jack. The jug was surprisingly heavy. They'll be heavier with water, said Jack. This isn't going to be easy, since the spring's a mile away through the rough, whatever that means. I'll bet that's the rough over there, said Annie. She pointed to the woods on the other side of the clearing. Jack and Annie wound their way through the stumps and stones piles until they came to the woodsy area, thick with underbrush. Wild grapevines twisted through the bushes and around bare trees and small trees, binding it all together. It looks rough, all right, said Jack. Annie pointed to a narrow path. I'll bet that's how you get to the spring, she said. Want to give it a try? Sure, said Jack. Let's go. Carrying the jugs, Jack and Annie started down the path. They pushed aside tangled vines and branches. Crows, sparrows, and woodpeckers swooped overhead. Squirrels ran up and down trees, small, bare trees. Down the path, the rough grew rougher. The path nearly disappeared. The tangle of undergrowth was so thick that Jack began to lose what little hope he had. I can't see pushing our way through this stuff for a whole mile, he said. Me neither, said Annie. Let's go just a little farther and see if it opens up again. Jack and Annie pushed past more brambles and vines. The whole journey is leading nowhere, Jack grumbled. No spring water, no split wood, no milk cow. Worst of all, no Abraham Lincoln. We've missed our only chance to use the magic to have a private meeting with him. I know, said Annie, but we couldn't just leave Sam to do our chores. Offering to help him is the right thing to do. I know, said Jack. It's so weird, said Annie. Even though helping Sam isn't part of our mission, I feel like one good thing is somehow connected to another good thing. So if we're helping Sam, we're also helping Penny. Yeah, said Jack. Despite his worries, he agreed with Annie. There's only one problem. We have to get a feather from him. Yikes, said Annie. Jack looked at her. Yikes, what? You forgot we had to get a feather? No, yikes, did you hear that? She whispered. Hear what? Whispered Jack. He held his breath and listened. A growl, whispered Annie. Jack looked around, his heart pounding. Like a wildcat growl or a wolf growl, he asked. Like that growl, said Annie. Jack heard a low growl. He heard twigs breaking. The hair went up on the back of his neck. Chapter 9. Cornbread and Molasses. Turn around slowly, Jack said to Annie. Clutching the water jugs, Jack and Annie turned around and stared back at the way they had come. They tried not to make a noise, but sticks and branches cracked and snapped. The growl came again, louder. Forget slow, said Jack. Run! Annie bolted ahead through the brush. Jack ran after her, his heart pounding. Brambles and vines blocked their way. Thorns snagged their clothes. They ran as fast as they could, not knowing if all of the breaking and thrashing sounds were coming from them or the beasts chasing them. They burst into the clearing. Jack looked back. He didn't see a wolf or a wildcat, but he wasn't ready to stop yet. Keep going, he cried. Jack and Annie tore across the scrubby clearing. Finally, they came to the cabin. Sam was standing by the woodpile, swinging an axe. He gracefully split a log in two. He looked up at Jack and Annie and smiled. How do, he said. Jack and Annie laughed and tried to catch their breath. For some reason, Jack felt safe now with Sam. Fine, he said. Fine, fine, fine. How do you do, said Annie. Why are you splitting wood? I said to myself, I ain't going to lie in bed forever, said Sam. My headache stopped as soon as I started my chores. I figured you two had left. No, we tried to do your chores, said Jack. But we were heading to the spring to get water, and we heard a growl, said Annie. Like a wolf, said Jack, or a wildcat, said Annie. So we ran, said Jack. Annie held up a jug. No water, sorry. No bread either, said Jack. No split wood, said Annie. No cornbread, said Jack. Sam gave them a big grin. Don't worry, I took care of milking the cow, and I found water in the rain bucket and the cornbread baking now. Wow, said Annie. That's amazing, said Jack. Now that Sam was better, he wondered if he could leave them to the president. So, do you still have time to help us with Find Abraham Lincoln? He asked. Sure, said Sam. I gave you my word. Great, do you think he's still riding in the country, said Jack. Nope, he's not riding anymore, said Sam. But I grant you he's around here somewhere. Like where, said Jack. Don't worry, I'll introduce you to him very soon, said Sam. Let's go inside first. Sam stuck an axe in the log. He picked up an armload of wood and headed into the cabin. As Jack and Annie followed, Jack glanced at the sky. The sun would be going down soon. Inside, Sam put more wood in the fire. He lit 2 oil lamps. Would you like to have some cornbread and butter and molasses? He asked. Oh, wow, Jack didn't know what to say. He was desperate to look for Abraham Lincoln, but he was also very hungry. I'd love it, said Annie. Me too, said Jack, relieved. We'll eat fast and then look for Abraham Lincoln, okay? Yes, indeed, but first you all sit down, said Sam. Jack and Annie sat on small tree stumps that served as a stool. Sam lifted the slip on the top, hanging over the fire. The delicious smell of cornbread filled the air. Sam moved the pot to the table. Then he sliced pieces of steaming bread and put them on wooden plates. He smeared butter and dark molasses over the bread and ladled milk from a pail wooden cups. Jack sipped the sweet tea and ate the hot, buttery cornbread. Yum, he said. He thought it might be the best meal he'd ever had. You really worked hard after we left, said Annie to Sam. I like to make things nice for Sarah when she comes home from school, said the boy. Do you ever get to go to school? Asked Jack, his mouth full. Sam nodded. Since Pa left, I stay here and watch over things and do chores, but Sarah comes home and shares what she's learned. I do homework and everything. Have you lived here a long time? Asked Jack, looking around the queer cabin. A few years, said Sam. We came from Kentucky. Pa and I cut our cabin out of the wilderness. We chopped down trees to make a road. We rolled 50 logs into the site and put up these walls. Did it all hand and all without nails. Whoa, said Jack. That sounded like work for the strongest men, he thought. But Sam couldn't have been more than 7 or 8 at the time. We did as best we could for the furniture, Sam said with a laugh. Someday we'll do better. It's not bad, said Jack, looking at the cabin with new eyes. It seemed like a miracle now. Everything made by hand without the help of machines or even nails. You make all your own food, don't you? Asked Annie. Of course, said Sam. I have our crops and Pa hunts our meat, or he did when he was here. I wouldn't be a good hunter, said Annie. Me neither, said Jack. Me either, said Sam. I shot a turkey once. Then I took a hard look at the bird. I was so taken by its beauty, I ain't pulled the trigger on a wild creature since. That's why we haven't had any meat since Pa left. Well, you do a great job at making cornbread, said Annie. You sure do, said Jack. He took his last bite, finished his milk, and wiped his mouth on his sleeve. Okay, now they had to look for President. Through the cracks in the cabin, he could see it was getting darker. Did you get all your chores done? Annie asked. Nope, I ain't worked on my Delworth speller yet, said Sam, but I don't consider that a chore. It's my favorite thing. You could say I have a great thirst of learning. So do we, said Annie. What's your homework for today, Annie? Said Jack, trying to catch her eye. Annie, said Jack, trying to catch her eye. Hold on, I'll get the speller that Sarah brought me from school and show you. Sam crossed the room and scrambled up aloft. The lesson I studied this morning is parts of speech, he called down. We have to go, Jack whispered to Annie. We can't hurt his feelings, whispered Annie. Just let him show us our speller book. But we have a mission, Jack started. Here it is, said Sam, climbing down from the loft. He grinned at them and held up the tattered book. Would you like giving me a little test. Chapter 10, Reading and Writing. We don't mind, said Annie, said Jack. But Sam opened the speller and handed it to Annie. Parts of speech, he said. Okay, said Annie. What is a conjunction? Sam bit his lip. Let's see. A conjunction is a part of speech that joins words and sentences together, he said. Some conjunctions are and, because, and, but. Perfect, said Annie. Yes, perfect, said Jack. Here's an example. Jack wants to leave, but Annie is ignoring him. Good example, said Annie. What is an interjection? She asked Sam. That's a part of speech that expresses a sudden passion of the mind, said Sam, such as alack or alas or fie. Good, said Annie, laughing. Except Jack and I don't use interjections like those. We express like passion in mind by saying like things, oh man, or oh wow, or whoa. Yes, that's right, said Jack, glaring at Annie. Like, oh man, time's running out. Or, oh wow, the sun's going down. Or, whoa, we have a mission to accomplish. Annie laughed again. That's right, that's how we use our interjections, she said to Sam. What else do you use in your book? Spelling and grammar rules, said Sam, and quotes from the Bible and fables. Cool, said Annie. Sam closed the speller book. I only wish I had more books, he said. Anyone who'll give me a book is my best friend. I'll walk miles to borrow it. Jack would too, said Annie. And Jack and I both love to write, too. Don't we? She looked at Jack. Yes, we do, said Jack, sighing. Oh, I do too, said Sam. Neither my pa or my ma ever learned to write, but I love it. I write words in the dust, in the sand, even in the snow. I write them in dirt floors with the sticks. Sam laughed. Then Jack couldn't help it. Why? I write in wooden shovels and with charcoal. Sam leaned forward and said in a hushed voice, but the best thing to write with is my quill pen and my blackberry ink. Sam's face glowed in the firelight. Oh, wow, you do love to write, said Jack. So do I. Jack forgot about Abraham Lincoln for the moment. I love to make up my own stories. Sam smiled. Me too, he said. And now I want to tell you all goodbye. I meant to tell you this before, but I got kicked in the head before I could. I'm kind of famous for playing pranks on folks. But the two of you don't deserve. Suddenly, noises came from outside, rumbling and neighing. What's that, said Annie. Sam froze. Then he turned to Jack and Annie, his eyes wide. A wagon, he said. He jumped up and rushed to the entrance of the cabin and splashed aside the bearskin. Pa! Pa! Sam shouted, and he disappeared outside. His dad's back, said Annie. Jack and Annie hurried out to the doorway and peeked out. 4 horses were pulling a wagon through the cold dust. The rickety wagon was filled with kids and furniture. They watched Sam run toward the wagon and the driver pulled the horses to a halt. Sam's pa jumped down from the bench and threw his arms around Sam. They hugged for a long time. Then a woman stepped down from the driver's bench. 3 children scrambled down from the back. They stood smiling and giggling beside her. Son, I want to meet my wife and your new ma from Kentucky, Sam's pa said. And these are your children and your sisters and brother, Elizabeth, Matilda, and John. Each kid said howdy in return. Howdy, son, Sam's new ma said. I've so looked forward to meeting you. Thomas is awful proud of you and your sister. He says you're a good reader and a good writer. We hear you're a good wood chopper too, said the boy named John. And like to tell stories, said the girl named Elizabeth. And play pranks, said the girl named Matilda. We brought you some books, John piped up. and a feather mattress, said Elizabeth. And a washstand and some soap, said Matilda. Come look. The children grabbed Sam, and he laughed as they pulled him toward the wagon and started showing him all the gifts they'd hauled from Kentucky. Jack smiled. Sam wouldn't be sad or lonely anymore. He thought it made him feel happy to see such good thing happen to Sam. Let's slip outside and hide in the shed, said Jack, so we don't have to explain where we came from. Jack and Annie pushed past the bearskin into the shadows of the twilight. They crept into the cow shed and peeked out. Pa! Someone shouted. Pa! Across the clearing, a girl came running. She wore a black cape with a hood. Sarah, my girl! Sam and Sarah's father rushed toward and threw her arms around the daughter. Sarah started sobbing. Her father hugged her. Don't cry, girl, he said. I brought you a whole new family. We'll all take good care of each other. Come on, let's go in, and you can meet everyone. You'll love them all, Sarah, I promise. I give you my word. As everyone headed into the cabin, Matilda exclaimed, My goodness, you built this by hand? What a wonderful job you did, said Sam's new ma. It's going to get better, said Sam's pa. We're going to make a real door, aren't we, boys? And we'll make a real floor and wood, patch the roof, and put mud in the chinks between the logs. Yes, sir, said Sam and John together. Thomas held the bearskin for his wife and all the children. Then he followed them inside. Jack and Annie could hear the sounds of happy conversation coming from the cabin. Wow, what a day to be with Sam, huh? Annie said to Jack. Really, said Jack. But what should we do now? I don't know, said Annie. I think Sam forgot us in all the excitement. Like when Tad forgot me under the bed in the White House, said Jack. Jack, Annie! Sam came running out of the cabin, calling to them in the fading light. He didn't forget us, said Annie. She and Jack stepped out from the cow shed. We're here, Annie called. I want to give you something, said Sam. He held up a quill pen and a small bottle. I told you about these. The pen's made from a feather of a goose, and the ink's made from the roots of a blackberry bush. I want to give them to you. Oh, no, Sam, said Jack. You keep them. You need them more. Take them, said Sam. I want to thank you for staying by me when I was feeling poorly and for trying to do my chores. Your kindness truly helped me. But we didn't do any of your chores. Not one, said Annie. You tried, though, said Sam. And most important, you both love what I love most, reading and writing. Please, Sam handed Jack the quill pen and the ink bottle. Use it to write something special. We will, said Annie. I can carry them, said Jack. He handed her Sam's treasure, and she put them into her apron pocket. Thank you. You're welcome, said Sam. And what I was going to tell you is, yes, Jack started. Before he could finish, a whoosh and a roar shook the earth, like a speeding train passing by. The ground opened, and Jack felt as if he were falling through space, through a tunnel, down through blackness, into a world of daylight. Chapter 11. Abe Lincoln at last. Jack and Annie looked around in a daze. They were under the trees near the tree house, standing in the same spot where they sipped the potion. The air was chilly but bright. The fresh breeze rustled the branches. The magic ended, said Jack, stunned. It ended before we can complete our mission. I know, said Annie. We didn't even get to say goodbye to Sam. I didn't even thank him for the quill and pen and ink, said Jack. I know. These were his treasures, said Annie. She held up the goose feather and the ink jar that Sam had given them. Wait, that's so weird, said Jack. We're looking for a feather, and Sam gives us a pen and a feather. Annie gasped. Look, Jack, she pointed toward the carriageway. A tall man in a dark coat and a high black hat was striding toward the grove of trees. He turned his head as if looking for something. At last, said Jack. Mr. President, Annie called. She thrust the quill, pen, and ink bottle back into her pocket and ran toward Abraham Lincoln. Wait, said Jack, running after her. What do we say? We'll figure it out, said Annie. Mr. President! Abraham Lincoln turned and looked in the direction. He froze and stared at them as if he was astonished and afraid. What's wrong with him, thought Jack. As they drew closer, Jack and Annie slowed to a walk. Abraham Lincoln kept staring at them as if they were ghosts. "Hello, sir," Annie said shyly. Jack was speechless. The creases on the president's face gave a deeply worried look. His gray eyes stared at them without blinking. "So it is you," he said in a hushed voice. "Tad told me your names, but I could not believe it might really be you." "What do you mean?" Annie asked. "You don't know who I am, he asked. "You're Abraham Lincoln," said Annie, "the President of the United States." "Yes, but I spent the day with you once long ago," said the President, "and you vanished right before my eyes." "We did," said Annie. "Outside our log cabin in Indiana," said the President. "Indiana," said Jack. "Yes, it was the day my father brought my stepmother home, and my new sisters and brothers," said Sam. Oh, said Annie. "What?" said Jack. "You were Sam," said Annie. "You were Sam?" said Jack. He couldn't believe it. The President nodded. Annie laughed. So when we told you we were looking for Abraham Lincoln, you played a prank on us and told your name was Sam." Abraham Lincoln smiled. "I haven't seen you since that day so long ago," he said, "and you haven't changed at all. I don't understand. Are you angels? Are you a dream?" Jack was too stunned to answer. "It wasn't long ago. It was today, or maybe not. Time and magic were confusing things. We're just regular kids, not angels," said Annie, "but maybe you could think of it as a dream with a little magic thrown in." Abraham Lincoln nodded slowly. Then he smiled. "I remember you tried to do my chores," he said, "and you thought some wild creature was chasing you. And you told me that your introductions were, 'Oh, wow,' and 'Oh, man.'" "Right," said Jack, smiling. "And you also said you loved learning and loved to read," said the President. "And you loved to write stories. And you said you loved to do that too," said Annie. "So you gave us these." She pulled out the ink bottle and the quill pen out of her apron pocket. "These were yours, remember?" Abraham Lincoln stared at the ink bottle and the feather pen. "Yes," he said. "I made them from blackberry roots and a goose feather." "Oh, man," whispered Jack. For the first time it fully dawned on him that Sam, who was really Abraham Lincoln, had given them a feather. The rhyme was starting to make perfect sense. "Why have you come back?" asked the President. Now Jack knew exactly what to say. "We have to give you a message of hope," he answered. He reached into his notebook and his pocket. "That's right," said Annie. "Just a second." She opened the ink bottle and dipped the goose feather pen into the ink. Then she handed the pen to Jack. "What should we say?" she whispered. "Well, the Civil War is going to have a good ending," Jack whispered back. "All the country will come together. With freedom for everybody," whispered Annie. "I'll write something about all that," said Jack. He thought for a second, then using the goose feather pen, he scratched the message into a page in his notebook. "Never lose hope. This land will live peacefully as one nation one day. One freedom for everyone." "You told us to use your quill pen and your blackberry ink to write something special," Jack said. He tore out the page and handed it to the President of the United States. "This is it." Abraham Lincoln read the words on the paper. Then he looked at Jack and Annie. The creases on his face softened. His eyes had grown bright. "Oh," he said softly. Jack and Annie laughed. "You really think so?" said the President. "Do you promise?" "Yes, I need to write something," said Jack. He took the paper back from the President and wrote, "We give you our word, Jack and Annie." A shout came from the distance. "Pa! Pa!" It was Tad. He was running up the carriageway with Willie right behind him. "Mr. President, we have to leave," said Jack. "Really?" said Abraham Lincoln. He looked sad for a moment. Then he looked at his boys running toward him. "Yes, of course, I understand. We'll never forget our times with you, Sam," said Annie. "Nor will I forget," said Abraham Lincoln. The two boys were getting closer. "Here, sir," said Jack. He gave the note back to the President. Then he and Annie started moving away. Goodbye, they called to Abraham Lincoln. The president waved and put their note into his pocket. Then Jack and Annie quickly climbed up the rope ladder. Inside the treehouse, they looked out the window. They saw Abraham Lincoln hurrying to meet his boys. When he caught up with them, he wrapped his arms around his boys. They were all laughing. Abraham Lincoln's a good dad, said Annie. Yeah, said Jack, smiling. We better go now before Tad tries to take over the treehouse again. Annie laughed. He'll be pretty surprised when he discovers it's disappeared, she said. She picked up the Pennsylvania book and pointed to the picture of the Frog Creek woods. I wish we could go there, she said. The wind began to blow. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still. Absolutely still. Chapter 12. The Feather of Hope. A spring breeze was whispering through the treehouse. We're home, said Jack. They were back in the Frog Creek woods wearing their own clothes again. Jack looked in his backpack and pulled out the book about Abraham Lincoln. Annie reached into one of her jacket pockets. Good, they're still here, she said. She took out Abraham Lincoln's gifts, the bottle of blackberry ink and the goose feather pen. Cool, said Jack. Before we go, I want to look in our books and see if there's a picture of Willie and Tad, said Annie. She took the book from Jack and checked the index. Yes, she turned to the page with Abraham Lincoln's children. She read for a moment, then whispered, "Oh no." She closed the book and put it down. She looked terribly sad. What's wrong? What'd you read? Said Jack. I just read that Willie died of typhoid fever in 1862, said Annie. Oh no, said Jack. That was the year after we met him. Poor Abraham Lincoln, said Annie. Poor Tad, said Jack. Yeah, he really needed Willie, said Annie. And then Tad will lose his dad 4 years later, said Jack. President Lincoln will become assassinated. I know, said Annie softly. Jack didn't know what to say. He felt like the wind had been knocked out of him. All his annoyance of Tad disappeared. He wished he had been more kinder to him. It doesn't make sense, does it, said Annie. I guess that's why hope is so important, said Jack. What do you mean, said Annie. We can't explain why things happen, said Jack. All we can do is hope that they make sense someday. Like when, asked Annie. When will they make sense? I don't know, said Jack. Maybe not even in a person's lifetime. Maybe in a world beyond this world, he sighed. Maybe we just have to accept that it's a mystery. Annie nodded, blinking back tears. Well, we brought back the feather of hope, she said, and we gave hope to Abraham Lincoln, said Jack, and we did really great things as presidents, didn't we, said Annie. Yeah, and he was a great dad too, said Jack. Jack placed the feather of hope in the corner of the treehouse, next to the glacier buttercup and the emerald rose. There's one more thing to get to save pennies, said Annie. Tomorrow, said Jack. Definitely, said Annie. Today I just want to live my normal life, have breakfast with Mom and Dad, and go to school, added Jack. We're lucky to go to school, said Annie. Yeah, said Jack. We're lucky to have a nice home and heat and running water and comfortable bed, said Annie. She stared down the rope ladder. And lots of books, said Jack. He grabbed his backpack and climbed down after her. As Jack and Annie headed home between the trees, a breeze shook the wet branches. Sparkling raindrops filled the Frog Creek woods.